Hi everyone, I'm Kai Dickens, and I'm thrilled to welcome you to the Talk Tracks. In this series, we dive deeper into the revelations, challenges, and unexpected truths from the telepathy tapes. The goal is to explore all the threads that weave together our understanding of reality, science, spirituality, and yes, even unexplained things like psi abilities. If you haven't yet listened to Season 1 of the telepathy tapes, I encourage you to start there. It lays the foundation for everything we'll be exploring in this journey. We'll feature conversations with groundbreaking researchers, thinkers, non-speakers, and experiencers who illuminate the extraordinary connections that may defy explanation today, but won't for long. Today, we're meeting Ditte Young. She's a renowned telepathic animal communicator, TEDx speaker, and author of 4 books. Ditte has achieved incredible success working with Olympic and national team riders from all over the world, helping them to build deeper connections with their animals through her unique telepathic abilities. Her groundbreaking work offers fascinating insights into the emotional and telepathic bonds between humans and animals. I first met Ditte over 3 years ago in Copenhagen, when I was solely focused on telepathy in non-speaking individuals. Ditte has a non-speaking son, Philip, and she experiences telepathy with him.
Philip is my child. He's 16 years old. He was born blind, and now he has some visual. He has minor brain damage as well, and he's autistic. He has the verbal language, but need a lot of support from me to practice that language. So he finds telepathy a lot easier with me, and he knows that I'm capable of practicing telepathy with him. So when he's sitting in his room, he calls for me in my head. And when I enter his room, he could have a nosebleed or his iPad is malfunctioning, and he actually needs my help. So that's my little wonder child.
When we were getting acquainted, she brought up her work as an animal communicator. But at that time, I just didn't think it was possible. And I think it's because of that old-fashioned notion in my mind that animals aren't capable of language. And at this point, it's as if my brain could only comprehend telepathy was possible with non-speakers. But Ditte and I kept in contact. And as my worldview and paradigm shifted, my stance softened. And today we'll meet Ditte and 2 incredible national team riders who she's helped through telepathy with their horses.
My name is Amalie König. I'm a Danish showjumping rider, and I'm 23 years old. I'm competing with the national showjumping team for under 20. And right now I'm most known for my horse, Josina. And we have together won the Nordic Championships for teams 2 times now.
Amalie is one of 2 riders that we'll meet today as we explore whether it's possible for humans to telepathically communicate with animals.
I had this pony who won everything he could win, and I was totally in love with this horse, but couldn't figure out why it wouldn't jump these water jumps with me, but could with the girl before.
So there's this champion pony who would happily do water jumps with various riders, but just wouldn't do them with Amalie.
Every time I would ride up to this jump, I could feel him tense up, but couldn't decide, okay, what did he look at? I nearly gave up on this relationship with the horse. I think I was 11 or 12. My mom came to me and said, hey, I found this woman on Facebook. She says she can speak to horses. And I was like, okay. I was very skeptical in the beginning.
The woman they found was Ditte Young.
My name is Ditte Young. I'm located in Copenhagen, Denmark. I've been working as an animal communicator for the last 27 years.
So Ditte comes into Amalie's life to determine why this pony won't do water jumps with her.
Amalie had a lot of trainers and a lot of sports and mental coaches, and her mom have heard of me and this alternative way of working around the ponies, because you ride on a pony till the age of 16, and then you swap to horses in the equine industry. Amalie had this huge problem that one of her ponies wouldn't jump over water, and that's required during these competitions. It just stopped, and it's pretty dangerous to stop while you're at full speed ahead, because she's going to fall out.
I already had in my head, without speaking to her about it, that it was like broken glass he was looking at and couldn't see the bottom of where the water began and where it stopped. The first time she stood in our stable, Ditte told me stuff about me and my horse that only a veterinarian would know.
And even more notable to Emily, Ditte accurately stated the vision Emily was already having, making her wonder if the vision was hers or coming from her horse.
Of where the water began and where it stopped.
Her pony told me it's like I can't see it, the sun reflects on the water and I'm afraid that I'm gonna, fall. So I'm actually taking care of Emily. So if she can measure it for me and I'm gonna jump like blindfolded, I think I might do it. And I told this to Emily and she did it. And it worked. And she was just bawling her eyes out. And the information came to me in pictures and thoughts into my own head.
And yeah, I started to believe a bit more and a bit more. But there, when I was 16, I really started to be like, holy shit, where does my horse know this from?
So now, years later, at the age of 16, there's another horse who won't do jumps with Emily. As a refresher, Emily is a Danish national show jumping rider, so jumping is kind of her thing. And similar to the last story, this new horse would do jumps with other people, just not with her.
Like, it wouldn't jump the bigger jumps with me.
So once again, she called in Ditte, and the horse communicated
that he was trying to protect Emily because he felt that she was inflammatory in her entire body, especially in her knees, and that's where you have contact.
Emily is only 16 at the time, so having inflammation around her entire body and in her knees didn't make much sense, especially because Emily wasn't feeling any pain.
My horse was telling me that I had warm knees. I couldn't feel it myself that I was hurting, but my horse could feel it for me.
What does warm knees mean? I don't know that term.
Oh, my knees would get warm and swollen.
Oh, just warm. Okay, like temperature warm. Okay.
Yeah, exactly.
The horse was afraid to go over the jumps because it's like it knew it would hurt your knees?
He wouldn't jump because he thought it would hurt me and not him.
And I remember inflammatory. And I remember I told her, I think you should go check this out with the doctor. And then she came back with arthritis.
Which is amazing because she's not even 20, right? She's very young.
Yeah, there's something called children arthritis.
This is so fascinating. So your horse could feel your arthritis basically before you could even.
Yeah. In the beginning, we didn't know it was arthritis.
And how did the horse convey that he was worried about her knees? Like, was that through images or was it through, again, like more of like a language you were interpreting?
It was a language and an emotion where I felt comfort for her and the need for, I just want to protect you, Emily. So I just translated that your pony, wants to protect you.
My horse told me that he wasn't comfortable doing big jumps with me anymore because he thought it would hurt me.
The family began trying various medications for Emily. And as wild as this sounds, the horse would convey to Ditte, the animal communicator, if the medication was working, even before the doctors would know.
I do remember that the horse told me, that's not it. That's not the medicine yet. Keep testing it. I'm not her psychiatrist. I'm not the doctor. I just told her, go seek the doctor and ask if this makes sense. And eventually we found the right medicine, and she will always suffer from arthritis. But I do know that they got the right medicine and the biggest pain issues was removed.
Today, Emily is still riding for the Danish national team and will hopefully qualify for the 2028 Olympics in Los Angeles. And Ditte is still in their lives and helping with their horses.
Last year, I came home from a competition, and one of my competition horses had a couple of days off, and suddenly she started breaking out in these kind of hot spots over her body. And then there was another one, and it just kept spreading out. And first we had one veterinarian out to take some tests, and they came back unclear. Then we got another veterinarian out. We sent out tests, the results come back unclear. And it went on for 3 weeks, and suddenly we had 20 horses with these kind of weird spots over their bodies. And me and my mom was just pulling out our hair. We couldn't figure it out, what it was. Nothing helped.
So they called in Ditte Young once again.
She told me she had 25 horses, because they sell horses as well, that has gotten sick. And people were frustrated, desperate. There was such a bad energy in the stables. And I tuned in like one huge energy from mine to theirs, asking them, what's going on in the stable. And it was like a mutual calling back to me, like a tone of a voice in my head saying, we suffer from too much water. There is water allergy going on. And I was like, water allergy? Can this be true? And I told the mom, you need to look this up if this could be water allergy.
You told us, I think you need to change the bedding.
The bedding in the entire stable, and that is very, very expensive.
And why the bedding? And you told us it's too wet.
The mom said, no, I will not do that, Ditte. And I told her, well, then don't. But you need to trust me on this one. And actually, I was a little bit afraid because I knew that was going to cost her a lot of money. And she did it. And she sent in testing for water allergy to Germany, to another hospital down there. 24 hours later, she called me back and said, you did it again, Ditte. They just got tested positive for water allergy. And a week later, after they did exchange the beddings for 25 horses, she called me and said, we have 25 healthy horses now.
Stories like this are transformative for those who experience them. But then there's charlatans and frauds who totally invade this type of space and take advantage of people. But Ditte brought up a good point.
If you are not very talented, you can never get the chance to make a living out of it for more than a week. People's going to notice it.
I love that. That's so true. I mean, like success is your calling card, right? In any endeavor. Okay, so you've worked with a lot of national team riders, not just in Denmark, but Sweden and Norway and other places. When you get to that level of rider, is there an acceptance and belief that there is a telepathic link or communication between rider and horse? Or do you think there's more skepticism?
I believe that they already know there is a telepathical communication going on in their programs during their training, because when you work at that high a level, you need to be totally simultaneously with the horse. And that's telepathy. You sense each other, you feel one another, you send images to the horse and it performs or it does whatever you need it to do. The higher you get in this industry, the more people have an opinion of what you're doing. So I think when people experience skepticism in the elite, it's because the riders are afraid of what other people might think of them. That could be the judges, that could be the national team trainers, which makes them more cautious to speak openly about it. But they do use it, otherwise I wouldn't have helped so many as I have. I'm helping everything from royal families to national team riders, from military, dressage, show jumping in Brazil, the UK, Denmark, Norway, Sweden, the Netherlands, Germany.
I wanted to talk to one of these super experienced riders to get their take on Ditte's skills.
My name is Ellen Birgitte Farbrot. Now we call us EB. I am a Norwegian dressage rider. So I've been qualified for 2 Olympic championships. I was the national team champion in Norway 3 times as a senior rider at Grand Prix level.
And she too has many convincing stories of Ditte communicating with her horses. And here's one of them.
The one time that made the most impact, like both on my sporting career and myself as a person, was the one time I had Ditte helping me with the Tahenia, the horse that I also was qualified for the Olympics with. We had a lot of issues loading her in the trailer or in the truck. She was a big horse and she had some claustrophobic anxiety when she was in the truck. I always went to shows very close by. And this time I had to drive for hours to Norway, and I kind of panicked a little that I had to do this with her in order to be a part of the Norwegian team. So I called Ditte and said, I really need your help with this horse.
She called me because she had a horse who was going to the Norwegian championship. And she knew for a fact that this horse would usually be exhausted and hydrated, so it wouldn't perform. and she would lose every single time. And she had no idea how to solve this issue. So I did a telepathical communication with the horse. Tehenya was her name. And she told me through images and emotions that she was out of balance in that huge truck. And 16 hours, that would be a lot. So Tehenya asked me, could you tell Ibi to tell me telepathically where we are going? You know, now I'm going to the right. Now I'm going to the left. And then I have a chance to balance myself back there. And when I told Ibi the story, she laughed and said, Ditte, are you kidding me? Do you want me to talk to my horse for 16 hours straight in a car? And I said, yeah.
I thought Ditte was a little bit crazy, but I did, like she told me. And I drove all the way to Norway, and she was standing there like she had never done in her life. And she was like eating and drinking and behaved so nice. And we got a silver medal at the Norwegian championship, which was also our main goal. And I thought that, okay, my horse is cured.
She called me and she was so proud, and she forgot to do it on her way back home. And then the horse got sick.
I had to call the vet to come and sedate her and give her the fluids. So from that day on, I always told her if we were going right or left or whatever. And I had her for 5 years where I did the same thing, and I was always driving her. Except this one time when my groom was to drive her home from the shows, and she was kind of laughing at me for doing this all the time, because I always said to her, don't talk to me while driving this horse because I have to focus. And she couldn't load it on the way home before she told the horse, okay, I'm sorry, you won't bump your head, and I will tell you how the journey will be.
So wait, who said to the horse you won't bump your head?
When my groom was to drive her home one time, she couldn't load her without saying it.
But then she said it, and then the horse would get in.
Yeah, then she just went in by herself.
But you know what's so interesting about this? I mean, is she saying it with language? Because is it like, do you think the horses are just interpreting the meaning behind it like telepathy, or do you think they understand our language in some degree?
I think it's, if you believe it when you think it, then the horse will do what you say. But if you believe it when you say it out loud, then you need to say it out loud.
So you're saying like whatever you believe more, deliver it that way. So if you're saying it with words and that is the most intention and belief, deliver the message in words. And if you can just do it in thought and have the same message and intention and all that with just a thought, then deliver it that way. Like it doesn't matter if you say it out loud. As long as you're believing it, the horse will get it.
Yeah, absolutely. I would never have had a medal if it wasn't for Ditte. And I think also to go for the qualifying for the Olympics, if it wasn't for Ditte, it wouldn't have happened.
Ditte has a ton of videos on her social media, and going through them is astounding because so many riders have been deeply transformed and convinced by Ditte's telepathic communication with their animals. And so I asked Ditte if she could step in and help my family beter understand the dog we rescued last year. So to set the stage, we need to rewind 1 year ago to February 2024. Our family had recently put down our very senior dog, Eos. I was walking my daughter to school, and she asked me if we could get another dog. We were totally maxed out. We have 2 cats, 2 kids, and I said the only way we'll ever adopt another dog is if one is put into our path who desperately needs a home and has no one else to help it. And a few hours later, mark my words, like hours later, I received this video from my wife, Kaisa.
So, I have some news. I just got off of my volunteer shift and I'm heading up the street. I see this dog running into traffic, which was freaking terrifying. And he is now in the back of my car and I don't know what to do with him. He's super skinny and he looks like he hasn't eaten anything. He's thirsty, doesn't have any color. And I don't know what to do. I'm gonna go to the shelter and just see if he's been reported missing.
The shelter turned her away and asked her to go to another location. But just like in the meantime, to help with Tucker's immediate needs, she brought him home, and we bathed him and we fed him and we hugged him. And then we brought him back to the appropriate shelter for a stray hold, hoping his family might find him. 2 weeks later, nobody had claimed him. They ran his chip and his last owner had died. He had all sorts of medical issues, including regular seizures, and we just figured if we didn't adopt him, nobody would.
You're going to live here now.
Skinny guy.
You're going to live with us
They
now.
gave me coupons for Petco and
great.
VCA.
Wonderful.
So you can go and get a free checkup and all that stuff at VCA.
In time, we found out Tucker was about 10 years old. He was mostly blind and deaf, and he had regular seizures. We were in and out of the vet. We were trying to shower him with love and attention, but no matter what we did, he honestly just didn't seem to care. I mean, not about us or anything. He never came to the door or even lifted his head when we woke up or walked into the room or came home or came down the stairs in the morning. If the family was in the living room, he'd go to the whole other side of the house. Often he'd find the darkest, loneliest corner and lay there. And if we went and picked him up, he'd go back to that sad corner. We read a lot, and we understood that with love and time and consistency, this antisocial behavior would most likely change in maybe 3 months, 6 months. But it's actually gotten worse. We started wondering if he just didn't like us or maybe didn't even want to be alive. I actually started recording some of our conversations about it so the kids would have context about what we were going through in case they asked us like 10 years later when they had a core memory about Tucker, they'd understand. And this is one of those conversations when I was asking Kaisa about her thoughts on Tucker's state of mind.
Wait, hold on. I'm going to record.
You seem so miserable, which is so sad. I mean, we've given him a lovely place to be and live, and we've showered him with love. It's been a real struggle because you feel like you read everything you could possibly read to help a dog that's been homeless and possibly abused or at least neglected for a little while because he was on the streets for a couple months, but nothing seemed to work.
Like I said, it's been a year, and the one thing we always say to each other in these conversations is,
I just wish we knew what he was thinking.
Yeah, I've always said I wish he could speak.
So after my interview with Ditte, I sent an email asking her if she could telepathically read Tucker. She said yes, and that she could do this remotely from Denmark. But it would help to get on Zoom so she could look into his eyes. When we first got on Zoom, Tucker was in Kaisa's lap. We were on the couch, and my laptop was on the coffee table. And then suddenly, Tucker kind of wigged out and jumped onto the ground.
So would it help for me to put the computer down by him?
No, it's okay. I am already communicating with him, so that's no problem.
Okay.
I would rather look at your faces, actually, so I know for sure that you understand what I'm saying when I'm doing this.
Yeah.
If that's okay.
Yeah, I'm going to just get our computer because we're sitting in a weird space. Here we go.
You are ready.
Now we're ready. Yeah.
So what I did was I glanced into Tucker's eyes, even though we have a blind spot. He's not completely blind. When I start communicating with Tucker, I introduce myself. Hey, my name is Ditte, and I'm here just to communicate with you. And the first thing he says, like a thought in my own head, yeah, but what do you want? So he's skeptic about what do I want? And I'm sitting here with your family members, the adults one, and they have questions for you probably. If he would you like to help us with that? And he says, yes. So to begin with, I asked him about his personality profile. He says, I was playful. I am a little bit. It's getting harder with age. But I am playful, I'm sensitive, and I'm a little prince. He shows me a park where he used to run around free, and I don't know where that park is, but he shows me images with children, and I don't think it's with your family. Mm-hmm. So I actually have him under suspicion that he has had another owner prior to the owner you might know. Actually, I think he's been moved more than once.
Ditte certainly didn't know this, but when we adopted Tucker, they told us he'd been in and out of the shelter once before, and he had 2 different chips in his body, meaning most likely 2 different families. So this tracks, and there's no way she could have known any of this.
I think he's been with a family, and he's running around and running after a frisbee and a ball, and yeah, he's happy. But that was many years ago. He has that playfulness, and he says, take me to a park. And you'll definitely see that my energy will go up a little bit. The sensitive side of me is more skeptic, and this is also a shock and traumatized emotion I get, because the thing he says, and I hope that it's okay with you that I'm being frank with you and being very open.
Yeah, absolutely.
He keeps asking me, am I here to stay? Am I here to stay, or do I have to get into a new home? So he's... Are you okay, Kai?
No, I'm just crying. It's just because it's so sweet to think of him having this like a happy life before. And anyway, keep going. I just am sensitive, of course. Go on. And though that was true, I was feeling totally exposed because over the past 4 weeks, Kaisa and I started questioning whether Tucker liked us and wanted to be with us. And we started looking into finding him a new home that was slower paced with maybe an older caregiver that had a consistent and slower and calmer life. So in short, Tucker had every reason to worry that we weren't his forever home. And it just broke my heart to hear it. And though I'm the one that typically cries at movies, Kaisa was crying too.
He's not 100% sure that he's here to stay. So can I tell him that for a fact?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. I'm telling him, you are there to stay. This is your new family. I feel this. This was me exhaling, like massive exhaling. He's so relieved, like, okay, but because he says, the reason why I often don't want to look at them is because I get so sad because I don't understand where they're going. Are they coming back? We're talking about in and out your house. He says there are many people going in and out, but they are only telling me I will come back. You know, like if you, Kaisa, you're leaving the house, you would say, hey, Tucker, I'm coming back.
Mm-hmm.
But what he's interested in knowing is I'm coming back to you, if you understand that. That's the difference. I'm coming back to you at 4 p.m. And this might sound ridiculous to some people. How can he understand the time? But he understands the energy of time. So it's important for Tucker, are you going to be away for 20 minutes? Or 6 hours? I'm being personal here.
Yes, great.
Please.
Okay. So he says to you, Kaisa, that he loves you, he loves your heart, and he wants you to trust your talents because it seems like you are doubting yourself which way to go right now.
Kaisa was the one who found him, and it is clear that he trusts her and I think loves her the most in the family. And this personal note really resonated with Kaisa, who lacks confidence. And it seems like Kaisa's doubting of herself is impacting Tucker, who is also doubting himself.
And when you doubt yourself, it makes me insecure. So don't doubt yourself that much. Does this make sense, Kaisa?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay. When I ask him about health issues, and it's important for me to say I'm not the veterinarian, you have to get this verified at the veterinarian. But when it comes to health issues, he shows me that he's 100% blind on his right eye, and he shows me he has a little bit of a vision on his left eye. And I can tell there is gray areas, which I assume could be cataracts on the left eye.
Consulting his medical chart, this was all true. And again, there's no way she could have known this.
The second thing is, I think that he was used to having human food from his prior owner. I sense that could be like old women do with animals, like hand feed them with human food, because I feel like have eaten a pizza, toast bread, sausages, human sausages. So what you're doing correct is having very high quality food, but he's not used to it. He can't handle it. I have him under suspicion for something called protein allergy, because I sense that he can't break down the protein in his food. And I feel it itches. I feel the blood is itching. My body is itching because of a malfunctioning liver. Does that make sense? Is he on high quality food?
Yeah, he is.
The remarkable thing about this exchange is that Tucker has been itching himself dry for weeks. We've taken him to the vet. We've given him all sorts of soothing baths and anti-itch treatments and oatmeal treatments, and nothing has worked.
Yeah. Does he like us?
Yeah, he loves you, but he wasn't sure that he was there to stay. What he lacks is actually structure. And if you can't have that, just tell him, Tucker, today we're bringing in my daughter's friends after school, and they're going to stay here for supper, and then they're going to go home. Then it's predictable. But he's not depressed. He's just insecure. Now I told him, you're here to stay. Please, he will never get tired of that, because I think he got moved twice.
When we first had his chip scanned, they scanned the one, and then we found out that this woman had just passed 2 months before.
Actually, now you told me it was a woman, and it's easy for me to say now, but I never doubted it was a woman who died, because I feel that there is a shock and trauma combined with why did she leave me here by myself, he says, which also means that it took them a while before they found the woman.
Yeah.
So he was all by himself there with her.
Yeah.
Does your son have swords?
Yes.
This was really shocking because 2 weeks ago, our son won 2 light-up swords at the arcade. They're really bright and noisy, and he plays with them at the same time. And there's just no way Ditte could have known this.
Tucker shows me a picture that he think it's funny. So even though he can't interact with your son when he's playing with the swords, he's like cheering on your son. It's not frightening for Tucker.
Okay, and then one more question, because I know we feel really bad about this. We live in Southern California, so it's usually 70 and beautiful outside. It's just gorgeous weather. We walk him in the morning, in the night, we walk him. But we've put him in the backyard so he can enjoy the sun. And we want to know if he likes going outside.
He says, I like the outside, but what would you want me to do here?
That tracks.
Yeah,
actually.
Because we put him outside. Like most dogs will lay in the sun, and often he'll walk to the farthest corner of the yard.
Just stare at the fence or something.
And he'll just sit and look at the fence. And it's so depressing because you think, this is, go play in the grass and roll around and enjoy.
And this is interesting because he lacks structure. Again, he is not the type of dog that goes around play with himself out there. You need to be with him and tell him, there's a tree, just let's sit around the tree. Okay, there is a bird, I can hear the bird. So sense with me, because otherwise it's pretty boring to be outside by myself.
Okay, so he just needs confidence.
I think with the prior owner who passed away, I think he's used to a little fenced backyard. That's what he shows me. And walking around with her in the area. That's basically it.
This conversation went on for maybe another 15-20 minutes, and we felt really emotional afterward. Ditte knew things about him and her family that there's no way she could have known. She even knew the genders and the personalities of our cats, which was another fun tangent in the conversation. The next day, I asked Kajsa about it, and we're both running around the kitchen here doing chores, trying to start our morning. What did you think about that with Ditte? Did you believe it?
I mean, she was incredibly accurate. She knew that our son had gotten new swords. She knew which eye he was totally blind in. She knew he had had two owners before.
Did you believe any of it going in?
Well, I mean, I've been a fly on the wall here. So, yeah.
She's referring to hearing all of my conversations about telepathy over the past few years. But what she said next was really interesting.
I think growing up on a farm, you always know the animals are communicating without talking. I mean, that's just all around us all the time. So it's not as far-fetched for me as maybe somebody else that didn't have that upbringing.
Kajsa grew up on a 1,000-acre working farm in rural Minnesota with horses and flocks of sheep and other animals.
They were always communicating. Always.
Like how?
Even the sheep, who people think are so stupid.
How did you, what do you mean? What's the way you would see it?
Well, you could just tell, like even, we were close to a couple of the bottle lambs that we kept after they had grown, and usually we had sent them away at a certain age, but they would always come to us, but they would also bring their buddies along sometimes. And how would they have communicated that we're a safe human to come to?
Yeah.
All their baths kind of sound the same, at least to me. But somehow, Sally or whoever was communicating that we were safe people to come near. So for me, that was pretty obvious.
That's great. Thank you. We shared what we learned with our kids, and then we all started to change our behavior towards Tucker. making sure he knew this was his permanent home and that we were always coming home to him.
We're all going to go to a party, and we'll be back to you around 8 o'clock when it's dark outside. We're all going to come back to you. Everyone's going to come back to you, okay? We love you, Tucker.
Each one of us just started acting more intentionally and purposefully.
All right, buddy. I'll go pick up your sister, and then I'm going to come back, okay? I'll be back in just a little bit.
She's leaving, and then she's coming back.
Okay, buddy. I'll be right back.
And my son even started doing shows with his swords to make Tucker happy.
Yep, Tucker, you come in for swords.
And after all of this, I've come to fully believe that some animal communicators, like Ditte Young, are the real deal. In ways I don't understand, they seem to connect with animals and receive images and feelings from them. But all that aside, here's what I keep coming back to. Whether or not someone believes in animal communication doesn't really matter. Many philosophers agree that something is real if it produces an effect or alters the state of the world. Our reading with Ditte changed how we treat Tucker. It changed how we're thinking about him, and I think it changed how he's thinking about us. He seems happier and more at ease, and just the other night, he sat with us for like a full hour while we played a board game, something he's never done before. So yes, I fully believe in Ditte's gifts, but I've also come to realize something deeper. The act of believing is more important than the fact of believing. The way our actions and interactions have shifted around Tucker, or the way the relationships have changed between the horses and riders that you've met, that's what matters. Her work has created profound, positive impacts, and that is real. That's it for this episode of the Talk Tracks, but new episodes will now be released every other Sunday, so stay tuned as we work to unravel all the threads, even the veiled ones, that knit together our reality. Please remember to stay kind, stay curious, and that being a true skeptic requires an open mind. Thank you to my amazing collaborators. Original music was created by Elizabeth P.W., original logo and cover art by Ben Kendor Design, the audio mix and finishing by Ben Campafrida, our amazing podcast coordinator, Jill Pachesnik, my amazing assistant, Catherine Ellis, and I'm Kai Dickens, your writer, creator, and host. Thank you again for joining us.